Twitter, 2 in the morning. Use the hashtag C3T or write us an email to hello@3tlingo.org.
Ist Laserphysiker, was ziemlich großartig klingt.
He's a laser physicist. He's into
scientific
communication and science slammer.
Dinge im Leben. Und obwohl es ein sehr großes Bild ist, ist es nicht
Even though it's a very big picture, it's just it's about high resolution microscope. It's about picture, how you get them and how they're related to each other and how our image is
Genau, und eine große Runde
formed by
Applaus und los geht's.
Dankeschön.
Thank you very much.
Ja, schönen guten Morgen.
Good morning, everybody.
Fangen wir direkt mal an.
Just let's get started. First about me. Why am I standing here?
Ich bin Physiker,
I'm a
der in
physicist,
die Biochemie
which
gewechselt ist,
changed to
um ein
biophysics
Mikroskop
to
zu bauen.
build a
Das
microscope.
habe ich neulich mal einer Comiczeichnerin erzählt. Und,
I told her
das
about
hat
comic
irgendwie eine halbe
drawing
Stunde gedauert,
and
was
explained
ich
to
jetzt
her
gerade in einem
like
Satz zusammengefasst
half an
habe.
hour.
Und dabei ist dieses Bild entstanden.
And she drawed a
Das ist
picture.
eine ganz tolle Künstlerin, folgt ihr auf
She's a
Twitter.
very
Und
good
ich bedanke mich
artist
nochmal recht
and
herzlich für
follow
dieses
her on
großartige
Twitter.
Bild,
And
was
I want
sie
to thank you
gemacht hat.
again for this
Ja,
great
also
image.
ich habe in der Physik angefangen und habe
I'm
dann
a
irgendwie meinen
physicist
Weg in die
and
Biochemie
somehow I got my path to
gefunden und
biochemistry
angefangen, Mikroskope zu bauen.
and started building
Der
microscopes.
Talk heißt, es
The
geht um die
talk's
kleinen
name
Dinge.
is about the four
Und
things
jetzt
in
gucken wir uns
life.
erstmal an, welche kleinen Dinge ich meine.
So let's first of all look at the
Hier
small
habe ich
things
mal
which I'm
ein
talking about.
Centstück
Here you can
mitgebracht.
see
Und
a
da
1
drauf kann man so
cent piece.
erkennen, da habe ich ein
You can
kleines Stück
see
Glas draufgelegt, ein
put
Deckgläschen, auf
a
dem
little
Zellen
piece of glass on
angewachsen
it.
sind.
There are
Das
some
können wir
cells
so
on
noch
it.
nicht erkennen,
You
einfach
can't
so
see
mit
that in
einer
this,
Kamera fotografiert.
with this
Da müssen
camera.
wir schon unser erstes Mikroskop
We have to use
hernehmen
our
und
first
das wäre ein
microscope for this, and that's a phase
Phasenkontrastmikroskop.
contrast
Und da
microscope.
sieht das erste Bild
And the first
so aus.
picture you
Da
get
kann man
that
so ein
looks like that.
bisschen auf
You
der
see
rechten
a little
Seite
bit on the right
erkennen,
hand
ja, da
side.
sind irgendwelche kleinen Flecken.
There are some
Links
little
kann man noch die
structures.
Rundung von
On
dem
the left hand
Centstück
side, you can
erkennen,
see
damit man so ein
the
Gefühl für
shapes
die
from the
Größe
sand
bekommt.
piece.
Wenn ich da jetzt
So
weiter
for feeling for the
reinzoome mit
size.
20-facher
If I
Vergrößerung,
zoom
dann kann man
into
schon ein bisschen mehr
20,
von den Zellen sehen.
you can see a little
Und bei
bit more of the
40-facher
cells. At
Vergrößerung
40
kann
you
man
can see.
tatsächlich die Kerne
You see
erkennen
the
und auch ein
course
bisschen
of the
was von der
cells
Zellperipherie.
and also the cell
Wenn man jetzt
periphery.
mehr Details erkennen
If you want to
möchte,
see
dann
more of
kann
the
man nicht mehr
details, you
Phasenkontrastmikroskopie
can't use
machen, dann muss
phase,
man Fluoreszenz machen.
you have
Man
to use
färbt Dinge in der
fluorescence
Zelle
microscope.
an,
So you
beleuchtet
color
sie dann, nimmt dieses
and
Licht
you
auf
put
und kann
light
dann
on
halt
it and you
verschiedene
register the
Strukturen in der
light,
Zelle
and then you
farbig
can see the
darstellen.
structures in
Und
the
wir
cell.
bleiben bei derselben Vergrößerung wie bei der
So we
40-fachen
still use the 40 time magnification as we
und
use here
wechseln zur
and
Fluoreszenz.
change to fluorescence.
Und da fängt es dann irgendwie
And
an,
here
wirklich schöne Bilder zu liefern.
You can
dass
see we
wirklich auch
get very
irgendwie
beautiful images you can
dieses
see here.
Feld sehr, sehr
And that's why I
liebe.
really love the field
Und
of
wenn wir da jetzt
microscopy.
in so eine Zelle noch mal ein Stück weiter
If we zoom in one of these cells, on the left hand side, you see the whole picture on the right hand side. It's just the part of the
kann
cell.
man irgendwie sehen, ja, okay, da ist eine Menge los.
There you see there are a lot of things in there, and if you zoom in even more,
so weit, dass ich wirklich nur interne Zellstrukturen mir
so you want to
angucke,
see really the
dann
internal
wird's
structures of the
irgendwie,
cell, and then you can see
verschwommene Spaghetti.
it gets blurry. It looks like blurred
Bevor ich
spaghetti.
erkläre, warum die verschwommen sind,
So before I
was sind das überhaupt für
tell you
Spaghetti?
why this is happening, so
Das,
what
was
are
ich da
this kind of
angefärbt
setting? What
habe,
you
sind
can see there,
Mikrotubuli. Die
these
sind ein
are
wichtiger Teil
microtubuli.
von,
That's a very
Zytoskelett,
important
also vom
part of
Skelett
the
der Zelle,
cytoskeleton,
damit sie ihre
the skeleton of the cell,
bewahren kann.
so they can
Und,
keep
die
its
sind
shape.
aus Proteinen aufgebaut,
It's
das ist so
formed
ein
from
Ring aus
proteins, which
13
form such
Unterstrukturen,
rings,
die wie so eine
formed from
Wendeltreppe nach oben
13
gehen.
parts,
Und der
which
Durchmesser
form
von
like
den Dingern
a staircase.
ist 25
The diameter is
Nanometer.
25 nanometers.
Jetzt kann man allerdings auf so einem Mikroskopiebild, was auf der rechten
On such
Seite
of these
ist,
microscopy
erkennen,
pictures, you
ja,
can see
wirklich 25 Nanometer sind die nicht, wenn man
25
sich
nanometers, they don't appear to size.
Messbalken, den
So if you
Scale-Bar
look
anguckt,
at the
der ist
scale
ein
bar on
Mikrometer,
the
das
top
passt
right
irgendwie
corner,
nicht. Die
this
sind
doesn't
deutlich
fit.
dicker
These
auf dem
tubes
Mikroskop
are
und das
way
liegt
bigger,
leider nicht irgendwie
and that's
an,
not
an Vergrößerung oder so,
that's not because of
sondern da
magnification,
spielt uns die
but
Physik ein
here
Schnüppchen.
physics is the key
Verdammte
reason.
Physik.
Then
Der eine oder
physics.
andere hat vielleicht schon mal von der
Some of you have already heard about the
Die
fraction
hat
limits.
Ernst Abbe ausgetüftelt,
Ernst Abbe had come up with this,
1873, wenn mich nicht alles täuscht. Aber viel wichtiger für die
the most important part for fluorescence is
der junge Mann da oben.
this person
das ist,
over here.
Baron Rayleigh.
That's Rayleigh.
Baron Rayleigh? Ja, ich glaube schon. Er hat auf jeden Fall sich das Rayleigh-Kriterium ausgedacht. Und
He
das
came up
war
with the
ein
Rayleigh criterium, and this
wann man
criterium
zwei
tells you how can you,
punktförmige Lichtquellen noch
if
so
you have
gerade
two
voneinander trennen
point-shaped
kann, was der minimale
sources,
Abstand
when can you
ist.
still
Und
diffract
der
them?
ist
So,
für Fluoreszenzmikroskopie,
for fluorescence
weil
microscopy,
die ganzen Farbstoffe, die wir benutzen,
all the
die uns
dyes we
unsere schönen
use,
bunten
which gave us
Markierungen
these
machen,
very nice
sind
pictures,
quasi punktförmige
are
Lichtquellen.
just
Das ist
circles
bei uns
from sources.
250
That's
Nanometer.
250
Kleiner können wir
nanometers.
keine
If you go
Strukturen
smaller, you can't
auflösen.
tell them
Leider.
apart anymore.
Auf jeden Fall nicht mit normaler
Unfortunately.
Fluoreszenzmikroskopie.
At least not with
Man
normal
kann diese
microscopy.
Beugungsgrenze jetzt allerdings ein bisschen austricksen.
You can't go around this diffraction limit. There are various points. But you have other problems if you use these other techniques. I have a few. The first is structured lighting, structured illumination, SIM, stimulated emission, stimulate emission depletion, and the last one is single molecule localization. 2014 for STAT, the Nobel Prize was awarded in chemistry.
Was dahinter steckt, wie die Beugungsgrenze austricksen.
How you use the techniques to go around this diffraction. For SIM, you use Fourier transformations. STAT goes into laser technology. So you directly use the light you're going to use. And the last one, STORM, you use a fitting of signals.
STAT
is a completely interesting technique.
Ein bisschen langweilig für
But it's a little bit boring in this context here. SIM and STORM
braucht sehr viel Rechenleistung und
need a lot of calculations and lots of programs, and that's what I would like to talk about today.
Mit SIM an.
I'd like to start about SIM.
Die strukturierte Beleuchtung funktioniert
SIM works like the following.
Basierend auf den Moyer-Pattern.
We use the Moyer pattern effect.
Da links kann man sehen, wenn man
on the left-hand side, you have two grids. If you move them with respect to each other, there are funny structures. You maybe notice when you are going on Autobahn with the car, and you see how this pattern also happens on bridges. On the right-hand side, you can't see much. So start shaking your hand.
Kann man da was erkennen?
Do you see something?
Ich hoffe schon. Ich habe noch was Kleines. Man sollte einen Menschen in einem roten Hoodie
You should see a person in a red hoodie.
Das basiert auch auf diesem Moyer-Effekt.
This also is based on this Moyer fringes effect. You should if you don't to shake your head, or just to see it.
Sehr schön.
Okay, someone does see it.
Okay. Das hat also funktioniert. Also
so it works. So using this Moyer fringes, you can see something. And that's why we're using in microscopy. We use a grid. And we illuminate it. We project this grid into our sample and shift it, turn it around, and shift it again, turn it again 30 degrees. And that's how you make this Fourier transformation from this raw data. And that's how they look like. And if you put them all on top of each other, you get this flower-like shape. Fourier transformation, what? That's just a transformation from the image to the frequency space. So on the outside you have the small frequencies, small differences, and as center you have the big differences. So what you get out of it are these funny shapes. In the circle in hand, that's like a normal microscopy picture. But SIM, these rotations, etc., it allows us to get more information from the corner parts. And using this technology, you can get such a picture. And you can see here, we have much more information in one of these images. Just because we have rotated and shifted, so we have left several pictures.
Jetzt habe ich da noch ja genau, wie es funktioniert. Wir nehmen
How does it work? We take the raw data, these shifts and rotations, and put it into a software. For example, here, FairSim. FairSim is an open source software. If you want to just look at GitHub and have a look at it. And someone I've studied with at the University of Bielefeld.
Keine Reaktion.
No reaction. It's early in the morning.
Die haben eine freie Software geschrieben und es gibt für
they wrote a software and for SIM
nur Software von Mikroskopieherstellern.
Usually there are only the softwares from this microscope developers
und dann ist es eine Black
and
Box.
then it's just a black box.
Die haben jetzt sich das mal vorgeknöpft und eine Software daraus gemacht.
Wanted to start a free software, open source software. And in February there will be the next paper about it, which will be also an open access paper where they start calculation on GPUs. They will beat every commercial software there.
And commercial software needs 2 minutes for one image, and this one 30 milliseconds. And that's, yeah, right. And the nice thing about this technology is you can use the raw data, and perhaps someone thinks, oh, we could do it even better. Maybe this grid isn't perfect sign, and we use another one, and we have different software, and we can put it into another software, and then our pictures will get even better. The raw data is just fantastic, and if you take away something from this talk, then raw data is great. And so I have another picture here. It's a SIM image. This is a localization microscopy from liver cells. And it was found that in diagnostics, so in the applications where it has to be fast, there was really an advantage from super resolution for certain diseases, because the pores in the liver cells have the perfect size to use super resolution microscopy, where otherwise tedious lab work would be necessary. This is from open access, from a paper in open access. You can look at it online. Please do that. And this is from my dear colleague, Viola Mönke-Müller. And now we go to localization microscopy. That was my PhD thesis, and the technology is called direct stochastic optical reconstruction, or D-STORM for short. And this is about blinking. We put chemicals and dyes on it with the chemistry, and the dyes don't want to do that anymore, and out of 2,000 is working, and the others are off. And if you look at that in a microscope, that's what it looks like. In the beginning, I turn on the laser, and I really need a laser for that, and then by and by they all turn off, and then they start flashing. And these signals are really signals from the individual molecules. They are point-sized. And if I record these signals, 10 or 20,000 pictures as raw data, and then from such a blurred picture, we can get this one. If I put it into the right software, it's called RapidStorm or Thunderstorm, very creative naming. Also free software, you can download it. Just Google for localization software, Thunderstorm and localization software. And with Thunderstorm alone, you get different results. But you can, if you reconstruct it, like here, you can see that, it's not just one microtubule, but there are two. And if you can really distinguish the two, and which made the biologist in me very happy. It's very clear that this is just an improvement in resolution. And how it works, thank you to Ricardo Enriquez, who made this video. If you can see, if you record the blinking of the Eiffel Tower, then first you search for the signals, and the same way you do it in a cell, and then you reconstruct the picture dot for dot. And the signals we found are also diffraction limited and blurred. But if you do it point by point, you know that every point is a single dot, and the resolution is only dependent on the number of photons and not the limits of the optics. And that's why the resolution is increased substantially. If you want to do more colors, there are some problems. So we stay in France with the colors. So chromatic aberration causes this blur. And if you use a white light, and from red, white, blue, it's smeared and it's chromatic aberration. And normally you have to correct that with registration. And you take the two pictures and try to make them match, but such a registration is never perfect, and there are bound to be errors. In my PhD thesis, I developed a technique that is spectral D-STORM, and we make color from raw data, and you can look at the software, how the software works. Raw data are great. And here's some more examples what it looks like. And we cannot just make two colors, we can also make 3D reconstructions. All this looks a bit pixelized, but we are really at such a high resolution that you can hardly believe it. And that because you hardly believe it, I will give you a little comparison of scale, and so we went down from the beginning. So this little sphere on the right side has a diameter of 150 nanometers, which really isn't a lot. And such a cent coin has 15 millimeters diameter. And if we imagine that one of these vesicles is a pinhead of 3 millimeters, then for comparison, the cent piece would be 300 meters, or 3 soccer fields. So to remember the picture from the beginning, these pinheads or vesicles are these little green dots that you can see on the normal fluorescence microscopy. So we are really well into it, getting stuff out of the data. So it's probably a good idea to build your own microscope, because such as spectral demixing DStorm, there was nothing like that. So here's a time lapse how we built our microscope. So we just move it into another room. And some people say, especially in sciences and life sciences, do it yourself, DIY bio. No, you don't do that. Don't you have enough money so you can just order one? And I say, tinkering is science, and science is tinkering. And that's part of it. Otherwise, there's no progress. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this wonderful technology. Many of these things were developed in 2006 to 2008 because there were some crazy physicists who teamed up with biologists and thought, how can we increase resolution? I don't understand that. Everyone who thinks that should think about it and listen to me for some more. And this building this microscope works because there is open software, and it's micromanager based on ImageJ. And ImageJ is used by biologists for image processing, but micromanager is wonderful. And the modern microscopes can be controlled by that. Our STD Storm can control all our different microscopes that we have. They were detected, and anyone has a new device without a driver, he just writes a driver, puts it into micromanager community, and everyone can use it. It's wonderful. And what's also cool is this picture here. This is a picture from my 12 euro microscope, which I have here. So the software which can control the most advanced microscopes can also control this 12 euro microscope, which you have from online order. And Arduino also works if you build your own microscope table. So look at this, it works. So some people thought, hey, building ourselves, wonderful. We can so there's a blueprint for cost-effective do-it-yourself microscopy. So such microscopes like these you can buy for 800,000 microscopes and can do 2 colors and 25 nanometers resolution. But you can build it for 20,000 euros with 2 colors, 40 nanometers. And it's important that we do these, think about these things, because our universities say we can offer to students things from research. But what that means for third world countries where there's a university who wants to do research, I don't think I have to emphasize it anymore if you look at the numbers. The same is for SIM. As fair SIM, I talked about it before. Fast SIM is an idea how to do structured illumination microscopes cheaply. And if you look at the commercial offer, it's about $1 million for a commercial SIM microscope, can do 4 colors, needs time minutes for the image reconstruction. Or you just use the open free software and buy the parts with not quite as beautiful, really neat surfaces, but a lot cheaper, 25 kilo euros, 3 colors and 30 milliseconds with FairSim. And it's just wonderful.
Der Applaus für alle Leute, die in diesem Gebiet arbeiten. Also
so that was really
gerne weiter. Ich treffe die auch
the applause for all the people who work in this field, and I'll meet them again in 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe they're watching. Hi.
So, warum spielen so wenige mit
So
Mikroskopen?
why do so few people play with microscopes? If you're working in the life sciences, who do research, first and foremost think about their experiment and the cell and the little bit of life that they have, and so making all the experiments with it, and that's you have a head full with all the things. And sometimes you have completely different ideas. Doesn't so stick a banana in your head or something silly. All this works a bit slower. So thinking about open data, open source, and making the software available. But more and more I realize that it really can't work differently. And what I want to tell you is it's not so much about pictures, but about data. And it's about making everything open and accessible. And we need good people who can write better software as I can do. I'm just a physicist, so programming is just, well, just with a hammer, and it's just always just a sculpture, although it should be a painting, but it's a stupid comparison. So there's the conclusion. I talked about the diffraction barrier and how it makes problems. So I talked about better computers, better software culture, modern cameras, and all in all, better technology, so we can have super resolution such as SIM and DStorm, and that we can make cheap DIY things, but it's mostly about data. So microscopy is data collection and not necessarily making pictures. So raw data are great. So I hope you remember that. And we scientists are a bit slow. So many people have opened their software and published under open access and published data in the internet. And it has to be more, so be patient with us. But it'll be more and more open science, and everyone can play. And I invite everyone who has love for image reconstruction and programming. And so look at the things I told you about today, and maybe have other cool ideas that we didn't have in our labs. So I say thank you very much for listening. I'll be in the assemblies, hacking and communications, near the Sendezentrum by the wardrobe. And yes, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for the extra applause for open science. We have time for about 4 questions. Signal Angel, is there something from the internet? Unfortunately, no. Here are the microphones. I will start with you. Question. You can start immediately with your question, but I want to say something. I have MicroWriter running here on this crappy 12 euro microscope. I put here a cent, and even with a 12 euro microscope, you can see the magnification here. It's pretty impressive, though. That was the star. There, you can see the edge of the star. So, software which runs very there. Okay, about the question. The easy question. You said you made several pictures and then you put them together and then you have the whole picture. So what is happening when the things are starting to move on the microscope? Answer. That's an important question. If you want to look at dynamics and biology, you have to be very fast. Using SIM, I said in the beginning, if you want to high resolution, you have way different problems. If you have the structured illumination, you have 15 pictures, 5 pictures, rotation, movement, rotation. If you manage to take this 15 pictures fast enough, let's say in 20 milliseconds, and you have enough emission, if you have a fast reconstruction, you have the possibility to observe this dynamics in biology. If you have to take 20,000 pictures, then I won't be able to observe very fast processes. But with modern CMOS cameras, you have the first approaches of this localization microscopy. In one burst, you take 10,000 pictures, reconstruct them, and then per second you have like 4 pictures. Then you have high-resolution microscopy. That's a start for slow dynamics. In principle, all these microscopy techniques, such as localization microscopy, you exchange resolution with time. So what you see in space, you lose in measuring time. So for one of these 2 color images, it takes you about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Ja, ich habe eine Frage.
Question?
Wie willst du denn bei selbstgebauten Mikroskopen Reproduzierbarkeit von
If
Ergebnissen machen?
you use self-built microscopes, how are the data reproducible? Question, answer?
Eigentlich ist es so, selbst die kommerziell gebauten.
In fact, even the commercial built microscope is not like a standard.
Wenn ich da beim selbstgebauten, okay, das hat
in my self-constructed,
die ist dann 3.
so the number is maybe 3.
Ja, du hast Optiken, die sind schon in stärkerem Maße standardisiert,
ja, okay.
Als wenn du irgendwas selber zusammenklebst.
The person asking as there are more standardized optics and answer. So why this is
immer noch so im 20.000 € Bereich liegen.
By the things I just showed you still in 20,000 euros part, you still need a good objective, and you have to use a standard objective, and that's the point.
Womit es steht und fällt.
That's the point where it stands and falls. And camera, and all the optics.
Da benutzt man auch die, sagen wir mal, die normalen
use just standardized material.
Wenn man ein Mikroskop gebaut hat,
and once you've built this microscope, you have to characterize, you have to test measurements, and then it works. Then it's reproducible. But still, they're delivering very, very good results. And you think, yeah, that's good, but still, it looks like a real microscope. But yeah, it is a real microscope. You mustn't be afraid to build your things yourself. You have to do good test measurements, then you have reproducible measurements. But it's the same for commercial measurements. You have to prove they're stable, and otherwise...
Beantwortet das deine Frage.
Hier vorne in Blau.
Question?
Genau, es gibt da verschiedene Techniken, die schon
there are different types of techniques, such as conversion microscopes, to go through these limits. For example, using different wavelengths. Was this in fact a green, or was it colored? And are there other approaches using maybe UV or XUV or maybe emulsion microscopy? So you can beyond this diffraction limits. I don't know where this 150 nanometers is coming from. So is it going into this direction? Answer: wavelength is not really helping. In conventional way, this is not very helpful. If you want to tune a wavelength to get a better resolution, why would you want to do this? So you're not losing time. So you want to observe life forms. If you go into hard UV and you look at living cells, it's only a very short time you can do this. If you have a cell which is able to move fast enough, it will move away if it's able to. You can hunt them, basically. We also have to have fun in the lab, okay?
Also, Wellenlängen.
So wavelengths. It's not very helpful. It's SIM, maybe a little bit. You maybe use 405 nanometers, that's best resolution, where you can change the grid, but you can't go into UV. In standard microscopy, there are also other approaches, such as convolution or confocal microscopes, where you can just take out and calculate something else. But if you really want to go to this resolution of 150 nanometers,
wenn man da genau hinguckt, dann kann man auch sehen, dass Ding
you can still see a structure, see it's empty. There are still structures smaller which you can see. And we use red light,
wir haben das mit
so it's 643 nanometers of wavelength.
Die Wellenlänge gar nicht so wichtig.
So the wavelength is not that important. The point is, as many photons as possible have to come out. That's what gives our illusion.
Okay, letzte Frage aus
Last
dem
question
Internet.
from
Das
Internet.
sitzt dort.
Question?
Das Internet hat die Frage nach der Größe, die so ein Mikroskop für 25
The Internet asks, what's the size of such a microscope?
Wie verhalten sich denn so Größe und Komplexität zwischen den kommerziellen und dem
Additionally,
Selbstbau?
what are the relations between size and complexity of such a microscope and self-building?
Das sind so zwei Seiten einer Medaille. Wenn ich ein kommerzielles
there are
Mikroskop
two sides
da
of the
stehen
thing.
habe,
If you have a commercial microscope,
die dürfen so ein Mikroskop gar nicht verkaufen.
they're not allowed to sell
Wenn
it
du theoretisch in der
if
Lage bist,
you are
durch die
basically
Okulare durchzugucken und
able to
3
look
Laser
into this
anzumachen,
ocular
die auf
and
der
you
Probe scheinen.
can switch on these lasers.
Macht total Sinn, dass man das nicht darf.
It makes sense that you're not allowed to do this, because otherwise, yeah, you only have 2 eyes and you're about to get lasers into them.
Man macht dann auch die Geräte etwas größer, weil
So
sie
all
temperaturstabil
the
sein sollen.
thing is
weil
bigger because it
es
should
auch
be
eine Wertigkeit
stable in
haben soll,
temperature.
ja, beziehungsweise man möchte in der Fertigung auch immer die
And in the end, you want to have the standardized boxes.
Bei Eigenbaumikroskopen
In your own
habe ich den Vorteil,
microscopes, you have the big
wofür
advantage.
brauche ich Okulare,
Why
wenn ich
do I
weiß,
need
ich will mit dem
oculars?
Ding nur Hochauflösung machen.
I just want to
Ich
do
muss da
high
gar nicht
resolution. I
durchgucken.
don't want to
Ich
look
habe
through
meine
them.
Beleuchtung perfekt auf meine
So my
Kamera
illumination is
abgestellt.
perfectly
Ich gucke immer auf den
aligned with my
Monitor.
camera. I'm
Erstens,
just looking at the monitor,
Lasersicherheit total
and
super,
laser safety
weil
is
dann komme ich gar nicht in die
perfect because
Versuchung,
I
durchzugucken
simply
und
am
mich in die
tempted
Laser
to
nicht
look into this.
auszusetzen,
So
dann sehe ich es immer nur auf der Kamera.
I just see it on the camera.
Dementsprechend sind die Philosophien, wie
So
man
the
sowas selber
philosophy
baut
of
und
how to
aufbaut,
do this,
vollkommen andere.
it's just
Man kann
completely
sich da
different.
irgendwo in der Mitte annähern, aber
You can get a point in the
tatsächlich
middle, but
das, woran man sehr viel Geld spart,
the
sind
point you really
so
save money
große
is
Verpackungen,
this
sehr
big
schwere,
boxes,
stabile
heavy
Stative,
things,
wo
stable
man dann
statives,
viele Möglichkeiten hat, Filter
where we have
einzusetzen und so weiter
various
und so fort. Wo man einfach
possibilities to
nur
sync
einen Filter
something. You
anklickt,
can
den
put in a
dreht, die
filters, you can
Software
solve
erkennt den
them,
und
the
dann
software
klickt
knows
man
what it's
auf
doing, you
3
can click
Dinge.
something.
Bei einem selbstgebauten
In a
ist es dann
self-was
halt so,
setup,
man muss eine Schraube lösen, muss den
You have to screw
reinfummeln,
a little bit,
muss
and then
dann
you have
wieder
to put
gucken, ob
this
der
in there,
Strahleingang passt
and you have to look, is
Das
everything
ist
still set?
eventuell
Or
ein bisschen aufwendiger und
it
nicht
may be a little bit
wirklich
annoying.
schön und
It is not
user-friendly.
that nice
Aber
and
da findet man
user-friendly,
immer Lösungen.
but still there's a solution.
Natürlich ist in diesen hohen Kosten auch
In its high costs, you have also maintenance
Wartung
and
und so ein bisschen
support,
mit drin.
whatever.
Und natürlich hat man da eine Garantie, die man beim
And
Selbstbau nicht
so
hat.
you have a guarantee which you
Definitiv.
don't have on your own building.
Ändert nichts an dem horrenden Preisunterschied.
It doesn't change anything on the price.
Okay, ganz vielen Dank, André. für
Okay,
deinen Fall.
thanks
Danke,
again.
Für Physik interessiert, es geht hier gleich auch weiter.
Everyone who's
mit
interested in
CERN,
physics can
und
stay
wir
here
gleich,
and talk
Physik
about
zu
CERN
Physik.
afterwards in
Nochmal einen großen
Hall 1. So let's thank the speaker again. And we are thanking you for listening to your translation. This has been Pink Dispatcher and Frau Blauwal. Please give us feedback.